Well, sometimes being brave means you don't know what you're doing when you're doing it, and you don't realize that you've been brave until after the fact. So I was practically running onto the plane to get to this other country,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
understanding what the impact of this experience would be for me and what it would mean for my life
Yeah.
because I didn't know any different, right?
Right.
I thought this was going to be super fun and amazing, and I leapt into the
Yeah.
experience.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Life Exchange Stories of Understanding. I am your host, Kelsey Ross, and today we've got a great guest here with us. Why don't you tell the fine people who you are?
Hi there. My name is Liz, or Elizabeth Zirk. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I love YFU.
Yes. I knew when we started this, you were immediately one of the first people I wanted to talk to. So I'm so thankful you're here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me and share your story. And
Happy
I
to.
can't wait. So take me back to the very first moment you found out about YFU. How did this all start?
As a young person from grade school age, I was interested in languages, and both my father and my mother worked. So I was in after school clubs, after school care, things like that. And I had somebody who looked after me after school, but also taught me French. And we learned, songs, we learned the numbers and the colors and simple words. I even was part of French pronunciation contests. If that's a thing anymore, I don't know.
That's cool. I've never heard of that. So just pronouncing French words?
Yeah, they gave you phrases or statements to say, and then it was how well you could repeat it back or say it at your own pace. And I'm doing this at like 7, 8, 9 years old.
Wow.
So once I got to middle school, and there was a language class I could take, I took French. And I continued taking French in high school. When I started high school, I was taking French class, and our teacher was eccentric and playful and very energetic. And she would love to tell stories about how she learned to drive in Paris, which was, yeah, that's the whole thing. But and I just really enjoyed her class. And she had a YFU representative or volunteer come into our French class when I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
And I remember hearing about all of these opportunities to go live in the countries that spoke other languages like French.
Yeah.
So I could go spend time in France or Belgium or, like just, and how cool that would be. And I had already heard my teacher talking about how she lived in these places. So at 14, I got it in my mind that this was a thing I could do, that this was something that I could experience in my life. And so I went home that day, and I'm the only child, and we're sitting at the dining room table eating dinner. And I was like, so, hey mom, hey dad. So, I'm gonna apply to go abroad. I'm gonna study abroad. I didn't ask them. I sort of told them this is gonna happen. And my parents wisely said, well, let's leave it for a year and see if you have the same desire when you're 15. And I did. The same thing happened in my sophomore year. The same YFU representative came into French class, talked about your programs and all of the experiences that were available to you if you decided to go abroad. So I came back to dinner, told my parents, yeah, I still want to go study abroad. And I started filling out application paperwork that fall.
Wow. So I'm sure your parents were pretty shocked by this big revelation, especially coming back to it a year later and not having your mind changed at all. Would you say that they were supportive of this decision of yours?
They were, and I would hesitate to say that they were not shocked. I was as a young person, I was very precocious, is the diplomatic word nowadays. I was very outgoing and always had my fingers in some sort of project or thing that I wanted to do. I was interested in the world. My dad and I would sit we had a big atlas book. We would sit and look at maps, and he would tell me where he had traveled to in his life. And my mother is from England, so I had already been to another country as a young person to visit family.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were shocked, but they wanted me to experience it when I was really ready, when I could understand the impact of doing it. So I think going during my sophomore year was a little early, and they thought, let's wait another year and have her go during her junior year, which is very common. There's a lot of students that go when they're 16.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. But they were very supportive. Of course, I'm an only child. My mother remembers she would tell the story of how she dropped me off at kindergarten, and I just went, okay, peace, and like ran into the room.
Oh my God.
I was not clingy as a child. But my father was a little bit more, he knew he would miss me. So they're fully supportive parents and always have been, and whatever ideas have come into my head. But they also want to talk through the practicalities. They want it to be a useful experience, a meaningful experience, and not a frivolous one.
Very logical, practical way of taking it. I give it up to them. I've heard many stories of parents who find out their kid wants to study abroad, and they're like, what? And freak out. Say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's why I hear quite a few stories of study abroad students who didn't tell their parents that they applied, and all of a sudden they win a scholarship, and it's like, hey, mom, dad, guess where I'm going.
Meanwhile.
And you and I have being an only child in common. So I try to imagine my mom at that point in my life and how she would have been. And I can't say she would have had the same reaction as your parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they also understood that I was stuck to it as an idea. Yeah. It wasn't a flash in the pan. It wasn't just an idea that I had one day and then I let go of the next. So to them, it showed my dedication and commitment. And they wanted to provide their own dedication and commitment to understand how they could be helpful, what the support system looked like with YFU and all of those things. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Having all that much support and having YFU to help too. That's fantastic. So you were filling out the application paperwork. It sounds like you had a couple of French-speaking countries in mind when you were applying. Were there any other countries you were considering at that time?
That's definitely where the road diverged for me. I remember filling out the paperwork, applying to go abroad, and you could pick like your top 3 countries. And going to France with YFU required language ability. And I felt myself maybe lacking a little confidence there for some reason. And at the same time, I also thought, oh, that's a bit of pressure. They're going to expect me to know a certain amount of French. And what if I disappoint them once I'm over there? Belgium did not have that requirement. And yet there are parts of Belgium that speak French. So that was one of the countries in my top 3 that I chose.
Yeah.
But then I also thought, I have this adventure available to me, and I'm the one filling out the paperwork. I could kind of just choose any country that I might want to go to. So I also picked Norway and Germany, kind of randomly. Yeah.
What was it about Norway and Germany that intrigued you?
Nothing in particular. I think I was very, obviously when you're in high school, you're learning about the history of the world, and Europe is a big focus for American students, especially World War I and World War II. And I think they were countries that stuck out in my mind. But also, I enjoy colder weather instead of hotter weather. So I was not inclined to pick Spain or Italy or those Southern European places. Yeah.
Total sense. So I'm assuming you mailed in this application. Right. Okay.
It was the 90s. Yes.
Yeah. 90s. All right. So, as you were bopping along to New Kids on the Block and
a little later than that, I was bopping along to Alanis Morissette.
Oh, even better. Yeah.
It was that era.
What am I talking about? I was like, we're bopping along to Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
And then, I'm assuming you probably got a letter in the mail telling you that you had been accepted and you were going to be going to study abroad.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Tell
got a
me about
big,
that moment.
I remember it wasn't just a letter. So it wasn't like a trifold letter in a small envelope. It was like a big 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 14 style envelope with lots of
Yeah.
pages in it. And of course, the top page was, congrats, you've been accepted. And I freaked out and I was super excited. And I showed my parents and they were really happy as well.
Yeah.
I remember the interview,
Mhm.
they interview YFU interviews all the students before as part of their application process. And so I remember sitting on my living room couch at the interview. And then I remember sitting on the living room couch, sort of in the same spot, reading through all the pages in the packet when I was accepted to go abroad. It was really exciting. And it also all happened really quickly. I think I got the acceptance package in late spring or some mid-spring, and then it was like, oh, and I still have to wrap up school, and I have my birthday, and then I have to get on a plane. Okay, it all happened really, really fast. Yeah,
that's a whirlwind.
yeah,
A very full circle moment, having your interview in that spot on the couch, and then finding out you've been accepted in that spot on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And what country did you end up getting accepted to?
So of Belgium, Norway, and Germany, I landed with YFU Germany, and I went abroad to Germany in 1997, 1998.
Yeah.
Originally, I had applied to go for the fall semester only. And once I got there, loved it so much, I thought, please, can I stay for the second semester?
Yeah.
So that was also, we jumped through some hoops there as well so that I could stay for the full school year.
That's so cool. And have you had any German language experience before going?
I had no knowledge of the German language. I had no idea what it sounded like. I had no idea how to speak it. I had never met anybody who spoke German as their native language. I knew my last name is Zirk. I knew I might have some German ancestry, but it's not like grandparents who spoke German or like nothing. I had no knowledge of what German was, with the exception of some of the words we learned in history class.
Right.
But that's about it.
Well, how the hell did you prepare? What did you do? Now we got like Duolingo. You don't have an owl who's threatening you to learn your German.
No. And the beautiful thing is that there was no language requirement to study abroad in Germany. So I knew once with that packet of information that I would be going to a language camp for 4 weeks once I arrived, and then would be going to gymnasium, would be good, German high school. So I knew that there would be some support once I was in country. And otherwise, I leaned into my skills of learning languages. You repeat the things that are said to you. You try to nail the pronunciation of them and start sounding like a local, even though you have no idea what's coming out of your mouth half the time. And I think I have a faculty within me to pick up words and phrases. I took this after my exchange year. I took the SATs, and my verbal was a lot higher than my math. So it's just a faculty that I have had since I was young, and was cultivated by going to language classes throughout school. So it didn't feel intimidating to me. And I think my host family was also incredibly patient and wanted to teach me one word a day and how to use that word and when to use that word. And that was really useful as well. Yeah.
That's amazing. And did you already know who your host family was going to be before you got to Germany or when you got your acceptance package?
So I knew their names, and that there was a mom, a dad, and 2 brothers, and their ages, and that I would be going to high school with I thought I was going to high school with both brothers, but it was just the one. The other went to a different school. And then I knew where they lived in Germany, and that's all I had. This is the late 90s. Not everybody had a computer at home. I think I had just gotten an email address that year. And yes, I could have called them on the phone, but that was very expensive back then. So I knew where they lived and I knew their names and nothing else.
It's gotta be overwhelming. I assume, did you have any feelings of anxiety or overwhelm before hopping on the plane to Germany?
No, it
Really?
was kindergarten all over again. We got to the airport. My parents dropped me off, and there was a pre-departure orientation with other Americans who were going abroad, especially to Germany. There were a very large number of us going for exchange to that country, and I had met some of them at orientation. Some of them were at the airport. We were on the same flight together, so it felt like I already knew some people. And my parents dropped me off, and of course, my mom had to console my dad. Yes, she's going to be fine. She's 16. She knows what she's doing. She's committed. I gave them big hugs, and then I ran to the gate and gave my new friends, my new peers, a big hug, and that was the start of my exchange program. Yeah,
wonderful. And with your mom having moved from the United Kingdom here to the United States, I'm sure that's a way to have it was a deeper connecting point for the two of you. I would imagine it's having somebody who kind of understands what that's like.
Yeah, I think my mother, being from the UK and also living in different parts of the US while she's lived here, living both my parents having lived in Manhattan in the 70s, which is life experience of its own kind, and then living in the Midwest when I was a baby. I was born in Indiana, not California, but then also living in San Francisco. Like Manhattan, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and San Francisco, California are very different places.
Oh yeah.
Very different places. The culture is very different. So even somebody from the UK living in so many different places in the US and getting a sense of culture shock and understanding what adaptation skills might be needed, but also how to stick to your guns and understand who you are and lean into the strengths that you have. So, I remember my mom saying, "You're going to be fine. You've always been able to make friends. You've always been able to bounce back. If you hit a bump in the road, you've always been able to figure something out and find a way to make a positive moment out of something that may have been a negative moment a minute before." So she kind of mentally prepped me that was going to be useful on exchange. And my dad just said, I'll look forward to you coming home. But no, I'm a little bit kidding. No, my dad was really helpful because he had traveled as well. So my parents, like I said, are very practical, very supportive. And both my parents were very helpful in making sure that they knew that I felt good about going, that they knew that I felt secure in myself, and that they were, looking forward to hearing what it was like on the other side. When you come home, I want to hear all the stories, and, we'll see how much has changed and how much you've learned. So, yeah.
Perfect. And so now popping forward a little bit, now that you've gotten through the gate, you said hello to your friends, and now you're all in Germany about to attend language camp. Did you have any sort of first impressions of Germany before you arrived, and were they kind of accurate?
I think the only idea of Germany that I had before being there was very selective. Looking back now, as an American, it's very easy to understand what Southern German culture is, what Bavarian culture is specifically. I think that's partly, I'm a history buff. I think that's partly because that was the part of Germany after World War II that American soldiers lived in.
Yeah.
It's where the current big army base is, I think. It's in the south of Germany. So I think there's a schnitzel and potatoes and beer gardens and, that's a very, and polka music and lederhosen and things like that. That's a very Southern German stereotype. And I think I had that in my head, but I also knew that there was a whole lot else to, just looking at a map, there's so much more to that country, but I had no idea what it looked like.
Yeah.
And I ended up being placed in the north of Germany in Schleswig-Holstein, which is just south of Denmark. It's the state of Germany that sits between the North and the Baltic Sea. So it's very flat. It's more Scandinavian than German half the time.
Yeah.
It's a very different vibe of German culture than what Americans have as a stereotype of Germany.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Germans would be like. I had an idea of my mother's British, so I know what British people are like. I have an idea of French people from all the French classes I had taken,
Yep.
and I had an idea of Scandinavian countries because of some of the like noir crime books that were familiar to me at the time from Norway and Sweden. But Germany was kind of a big question mark. I didn't know what I was going to get. But I also remember we flew to Frankfurt as a group. And we had, a couple of days to sort of get over jet lag and sleep. And before we saw our host families, before we got on trains and eventually met our host family. And I remember we went out to, there was like a little group of 5 or 6 of us and a YFU volunteer who was speaking English to us. And she took us out for lunch one day. And we were in Darmstadt, which is just south of Frankfurt. Not a big city, but, city enough. And we went, I can't remember what kind of food it was, but the waitress, this is where my stereotypes and my prejudice is going to show. But being from San Francisco, being from California, where there are many Asian American communities, and my memory, there are a big Hispanic community as well, of course. And my memories are that, there's people who look Vietnamese or look Japanese or look Mexican or look any kind of way. They look different to me, and they speak English because they live in America.
Right.
So we go out to lunch in Darmstadt, and this waitress looks Asian to me. She looks Asian American. That's what I have in my head. And I assumed that she would speak English. And of course she didn't, because I'm in Germany. She spoke German. So I that was a really key moment for me of like, I have assumptions and expectations and notions in my head, preconceived notions in my head and concepts of what to expect and maybe what not to expect. And I'm probably going to be wrong. And that was like day 2 in the country. And that was a key realization for me that I'm going to have these ideas checked. I'm going to come up against something and go, don't know what's going to happen. Let's find out. And it started the process of me learning how to not have assumptions, to not have expectations necessarily, which was the most useful thing I learned from exchange and has carried through the rest of my life for sure.
Totally makes sense. And so, in your language camp, was that also in the Frankfurt area, or was that somewhere else in Germany?
No. So our language, there were, I think, more than one language camp, but the one that I was moved to was where my host family was. So I was at language camp. I was living with my host family, and then I would stay with my host family after language camp.
Gotcha.
In the north of Germany.
That's so perfect and convenient. And what was your first impression of your host family?
Well, they were all bright blonde, hair.
Yep.
Very, very blonde hair. And here's me with very, very dark brown hair. And that was the first thing that I noticed. They are blonde haired, blue eyed. And I did not expect that. And I learned that my host mom was from Finland. And I thought, okay, I get where the blonde hair, blue eye is from. Definitely. But also my 2 host brothers were metalheads. They were huge into prog rock, metal. They had long hair that they wore in a ponytail. They wore a lot of black clothing, leather jackets. And I was like, this is different. This is very different. It was all Britney Spears and pop music back in San Francisco where I was from. And now here I have these 2 older German brothers with really long blonde hair, well, as long as mine. And they're into bands like Pennywise and Gore. And that was like a whole new world for me. I'd never heard that music before. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Were you nervous at all about being like a sister for the first time?
I don't think I was nervous at first because they were so welcoming. They were a family that had hosted students before, so they had a bit of a rhythm, a cadence to introducing a student to the culture, and they understood that I would be at language camp. So there was a sense that they understood I was in learning mode for a while, the first couple weeks, first month, basically. And like I said, they were very patient. They were very open. They could all speak English. So it was a slower roll of speaking English at first and then starting to speak more German to each other over the course of sort of week by week. And my host mom, within the first week, laid down the rules. This is what I expect from you. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should not be doing. I would really love it if you could help me in the kitchen. So I said, okay, I'm going to help her in the kitchen. That's going to be a thing that I do in this family. And my brothers were older, and I got on with both of them, but the eldest we had the same sense of humor. So that felt really comforting.
Yeah.
To know that it felt easy at first. And then of course it doesn't, learning to be a sibling doesn't, the confrontations don't happen right away. You're tentative with each other at first. And I think that's true with host parents as well. You might be tentative at first. You ask a lot of questions, and then you might feel confident after a month or two, and you just go do a thing. And then they're like, what are you doing? No, stop. That's
not that.
Me first, you second. No. So, things like that, sharing a bathroom, or, I remember once, my host mom really liked it when our rooms were clean. So I remember a month or two in, maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was 3 or 4 months in, but I remember, I had my room next to my, not the eldest brother. The eldest brother was down in the basement, but closest in age to me brother was next door. Mm-hmm. And I remember I saw him cleaning his room, and I was like, oh, I got to clean my room now too. I got to clean it faster than him and better than him. And I felt really competitive all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so I did a big sweep and, big cleanup, and edited things and put them back in place, and then put my laundry together and took it down to where the wash machine was. And, and I told my host mom, I said, my room's clean. Just like that. My room's clean, Mom. And Henny's isn't. I think he's still working on his. She
just throw him under the bus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was there were several sibling things that I learned that maybe didn't. I didn't maybe need to learn them. But it doesn't. He was fine with it. He didn't feel offended necessarily. He sort of rolled his eyes and was like, "Yeah, okay. I'm like 10 minutes behind you, whatever." But my host mom was really pleased with me. And I just remember little moments like that where I felt like I read the room, I understood the rules, and I could still be me, and I was praised for it. That felt good. Yeah.
Beautiful. They really took you in and made you part of the family and the family bonds. And that is, really all you could ever ask for. That's incredible.
True. It's very true.
Do you have any other fun memories of your time with them that really stand out to you?
I just remember, I remember simple things like sitting on the couch together, listening to music. If it was
Metal?
Nice. Sorry?
Metal?
Well, the fun thing is that my two older brothers would take me to summer festivals when the weather was still good. And even though school had started. And we would, pitch a tent and sleep overnight, and then go to these music festivals during the day, go to the stages during the day. And I remember my host mom came with one time, and it's metal and it's aggressive rock music, and she's there in her, I don't want to say twin set and pearls, but it was that kind of a vibe. she was like, fly in the milk. You're like, what? It's just something does not compute here. But it was her showing support for her children, and understanding that they loved music, and wanting to be with them. And that was also really cool to see other parents being parents.
Yeah.
Not just to me, but to my host siblings. That was really cool. So it's little things like that that I remember. And of course, Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Christmas was a big holiday for my American family, and also in Germany. So I remember dressing up and baking things and getting flour everywhere. And and I remember, wanting sometimes to have peanut butter in the house, but peanut butter wasn't very available at German grocery stores at the time. It was a new American item that not a lot of Germans ate. And so we only bought it like twice the whole year because I was the only one that ate it in the house. And my host mom being from Finland, I remember, they kept Finnish mustard as a condiment in the fridge, which is very like a sweet, hot mustard. It's not the same as like a French Dijon or American or even English mustard, which is quite hot. Just really different things. Yeah, it was cool.
Interesting.
And black licorice. I remember the black licorice. I'm a huge fan of black licorice, and learned to love it during my exchange. In northern Germany, there's quite a lot of Scandinavian influence, as I said before, especially with the food.
Makes total sense. Is there a favorite dish that you got to try during your time abroad that stands out?
There's not really a specific food, but I remember my host family and I going out to almost like a very posh, big cabin in sort of in the woods on a lake. It was a restaurant, but it felt very rustic and picturesque. And it was what you might think of as a traditional German dinner. There's potatoes and mushrooms and meat and bread. And I remember stuffing just stuffing my face with the food. It was so delicious. It's kind of, and it was a big plate, kind of like what you would imagine 100 years ago, what a farmer would eat for dinner on a Sunday, like a special occasion dinner. And I was able to have like a digestive, like an alcoholic digestive afterwards to help that help it digest. And then we went for this big walk around the lake where the restaurant sat, and it was just really pleasant. And I just remember feeling like, oh, this is what like enjoying food is about. You have a beautiful meal. It's warm, good company. You can then take a big walk and not feel like you're a bloated whale rolling into bed afterward. It was lovely. It was a really lovely moment, and it was beautiful weather, and the lake was gorgeous. And it's a really big memory that sort of sticks with me in terms of food. So it wasn't the food itself, but it was like, this is what you should experience when you eat food.
Those, like the digestive, enjoying the flavors, taking the walk, and enjoying the time together. Were any of those things that you experienced on exchange something that you took back with you when you come back home?
I think because that was a special occasion meal. It didn't. It wasn't. It was the one time we did it while I was with my host family. But it felt like every now and then you should have a special occasion meal. So I have done that in my life afterwards. Maybe not immediately after, while I was still in high school and then college. A splurge is like, a big ice cream cone,
right?
Because you don't have a lot of money. But I think there's every now and then you should be able to sit back and relax and enjoy the experience of having a meal with people you like. And I've in my new home where I live now, I've had a dinner party with friends and cooked for them, and they've enjoyed the food. And even if they haven't met each other, they're talking to each other and enjoying the evening. I think you have to have those experiences every now and then. That's definitely something that I've adopted in part from the European lifestyle.
There's a sentiment that we've heard of quite a few times from across all different audience types, that food is a universal language, and that enjoying and breaking bread together is something that it doesn't matter if you don't speak the same language or never met, you can do that and still feel right at home with somebody. I think that's something truly beautiful about the human experience, no matter where you are. And then if you have those foods again, it transports you back to those memorable times, and the smell of German bread. What is it about German bread? Every person who is from Germany and been to Germany talks about the bread. What do they put in this bread?
First off, there's no one German bread. There's like 400. So dealer's choice. You can eat what you like. If you like seeds, they've got seeds. If you like like salted, sort of heavy salted, they've got that. If you like sort of a rough rustic bread, they've got that. If you want a refined bread, that's more for everyday use, they've got that. I mean, there's so many hundreds of varieties of bread. It blows my mind that there's so many different kinds, and it's so hard to describe to people who haven't had it. Because in some people's minds, bread is just bread. Right. No, German bread is a whole nother level. A whole nother level.
Any future exchange students out there who are going to Germany, I challenge you to a bread a day. Doing a challenge, putting it up on Instagram, giving your ratings, telling us what it's all about.
Some of them are regional, so you got to be careful there. When I say 400 or 500 varieties of bread, there's Laugenstange, for example, is a type of, it's like a pretzel bread. But Laugenstange, I didn't have Laugenstange when I lived in the north of Germany. I only found out about it when I went to the University of Bonn, my junior year of college. It's, you can't get all the breads in all the places.
That's fair. And with schooling being brought up, did you notice big differences between your schooling life in the United States versus your schooling life in Germany?
Yes. Understatement.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think American high school is very regimented, for lack of a better word, in terms of, this is your schedule. This is what you do every single day. You go to 7 periods, 7 classes. The schedule doesn't change. And if you don't like the class or if you don't like the teacher, it's going to be really hard to transfer out into a different class. And the fact that you can even transfer to a different class is very American. In Germany, I remember being with the same students in the same room and the teachers rotating and coming to us. That's a big difference. But I also remember, like, this is my class. We are going to learn all the things together. And what we learn is dictated by our age. The fact that we're all 16, we're all in 10th grade for German's sake. And we should have learned certain things up to this point. So it's every grade level, they learn certain things. And so by the 10th grade, this is what everybody's learning. Whereas in American school, I finished my math requirements before my junior year of high school. And my German friends were like, what do you mean? Like, I still have to take math because math is just par for the course. I had completed my science elements before my junior year of high school. So that, they didn't quite understand that aspect of American high school. I took a lot of notes in America, not a lot of notes in Germany. Maybe a language barrier thing.
Makes sense.
But I just remember it being more about listening to the lecture of the German teacher and then maybe working on some exercises, together. In English class, it was about reading certain English texts. But mostly it was also just the mentality. American school feels mandatory. It feels, regimented. It feels there's a lot of structure to it. And German high school felt very unstructured in a sense. There were classes to take at certain times, but the schedule was different every day. Sometimes I went home at 1, sometimes I went home at 4. It was really different. And some people would straight up say to their teachers, I don't really like this class and I don't really like school. And I was like, you can say that to teachers? We would never say that in America. Oh my God, that's so disrespectful.
Right.
Yeah. But it wasn't seen as disrespectful in Germany because it was just somebody being honest. And I think that's another German culture thing that I learned while I was there, is that direct, honest communication is just expected in a lot of cultures. And that's definitely come through. I'm a very direct and honest communicator in my life.
Obviously, it can't always be super happy, super fantastic all the time when you're on exchange. Were there any challenges that you had to face while you were on exchange, and how did you get over those?
I feel like some of the challenges and obstacles that I faced while I was on exchange aren't necessarily exchange specific. I was a 16-year-old girl turning 17 while abroad, and I, at that age, not every day is a good day. You're learning to navigate your own emotional landscape. I remember coming down some stairs. I can't remember if this was at school or at a friend's house, but I remember coming down some stairs and the kitchen door was closed and I could hear people talking about me on the other side of the door. And at 16, you feel like, what are you doing talking about me behind my back? But culturally, in Germany and possibly other places, that's not as scandalous as you think. People are talking about other people all the time, and it's not necessarily seen as, quote, behind their back. So I think there were little moments like that where I would get a little shock and I wouldn't understand why it was happening. Mm-hmm. And also, people are people. Sometimes people are not afraid to say things to your face, and sometimes people are more shy and hesitant to say things to you directly. They feel more comfortable talking to people that they've known for a much longer time, right? That's not necessarily exchange specific, but yeah, there were lots of little obstacles like that. So I think it's twofold. You're a young person navigating what life is at that age, and you're doing it in another country, in another language, with all new people. So both of those layers are valid ones to think about. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot to take on. And hearing from alumni and hearing from students who are about to end their programs, and that resilience and that bravery is something I personally just admire the heck out of all of you. I really give it up to you. I don't know how you do it, honestly.
Well, sometimes being brave means you don't know what you're doing when you're doing it, and you don't realize that you've been brave until after the fact. So I was practically running onto the plane to get to this other country, not understanding what the impact of this experience would be for me and what it would mean for my life, because I didn't know any different, right?
Right.
I thought this was going to be super fun and amazing, and I leapt into the experience. And only once I was in the experience and came back from the experience did I understand how much resilience, how much adaptation, how much courage of self, sense of self I had to have to go through that experience and come out the other side thinking, wow, I kind of really did something here, didn't I? I didn't think that going into it. So sometimes bravery can happen after the fact. You don't have to have a sense of knowing that you're doing something big before doing it. And sometimes that's a beautiful thing. If you don't realize that you're about to make a big leap, then the big leap doesn't seem so scary to you in that first moment, those initial moments. But then that also means that you have to roll with the waves and ride the ride that the exchange experience gives to you. And you always learn from it. And sometimes it's what not to do. But that's okay. And you learn about that, and you learn how you respond to those situations, what confrontation looks like for you, what compromise looks like for you, what humility looks like for you. Those are all things that everybody should be learning at 15, 16, 17 anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm kind of going to skip a little bit forward in the timeline.
Sure.
So do you still keep in contact with your host family now?
Sadly, no.
Okay.
I went on exchange pre-internet, pre-social media.
Yeah.
And there was some initial emailing back and forth, keeping track. And then I went to college and I had a slightly different life, and the rhythm of my life was hard to keep in touch with folks. I remember writing letters and snail mailing them. And then both my brothers in Germany finished high school. They went on to do their next step in life. My host parents retired and moved, so there's just different phases of life, and we had moved on to other phases of life separately. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And you had mentioned that it sounds like you studied abroad again when you were in college. Would you say that your high school exchange experience and influenced this college exchange experience you had?
Well, in the sense that when I started college, I decided to study foreign languages and received my
Nice.
bachelor's in that
Yep.
topic.
Yeah.
So doing some time abroad at a German university was an option that was made available to me, and it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I could go back to Germany. I could see my host family. I could see all my friends. This was only 4 years later that I did that. I came back from my high school exchange in 1998, and I went to the University of Bonn in 2002. So it was an easy decision. Yeah.
Totally. Kind of going a little tiny bit backwards, but still. How big was the hug that your dad gave you when you finally got back?
It was a pretty big hug.
You didn't break in half, at least. So that's good.
No, not at all. I had been eating German bread and drinking German milk, so I was made of sturdy stuff. Still am, but yeah, no, my parents were really happy to see me when I got back. So were my best friends in high school. I remember they had a pizza party for me when I came back
Aw.
on the plane, and I was just full of energy to see them again and be back home. And I didn't have any regrets. I had lived my exchange experience to the fullest, in my opinion, at the time. And I didn't necessarily feel fully sad about leaving because I had done what I thought I wanted to do during that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did your loved ones notice any changes about you after you had come home?
Yeah, I spoke my mind a lot more.
Cool.
No, I think just the way I dressed, the way I held myself, the way I spoke, yeah,
Yeah.
it was just different. I think I was more
Mhm.
confident in myself. I was less afraid to say things when, if I had a thought in my head or I had a feeling in my body, it would come out my mouth, and there wasn't really a filter that I had. Not that I had a big filter before, but I definitely had a sense that maybe I should wait to speak in certain conversations. And when I came back from exchange, I didn't have that hesitancy that I
Yeah.
had before.
Gotcha. So then you studied abroad again while you were in college, got your bachelor's degree in foreign language.
Mhm.
I know from working with you, you are still very much involved with YFU. So what made you stick around?
So I came back from exchange. I was a senior in high school, and we hosted a student from Brazil, Mayana.
Cool.
And so now I went from being someone who had two brothers to someone who had a
Mhm.
sister my exact age and sharing a room. And that was its own experience as well.
Yeah.
And then I turned 18, and I just wanted to stay in that emotional and energetic space of this feels good, this feels right, this feels like my place,
Yeah.
meaning YFU, because the exchange experience had meant so much to me and I learned so much about myself. And my parents have given me the example of duty and service and being a volunteer, and they've been involved in civic organizations and things like that throughout their lives. So I was like, well, duh, I'm just going to volunteer for YFU. This is my point of access. I'm an alumni. I have something to say. I have words of wisdom to provide. So at 18, I started being somebody that prospective American students could talk to while they were filling out their application paperwork, and what was it like, and what'd you learn, and where'd you go, and what'd you eat, and all of those, what'd you put in your
Bread.
what'd you pack,
Yeah.
all of those, what gifts did you give them at Christmas?
Yeah.
They asked me all those types of questions, and that evolved from there. Then it was like, well, it's a slippery slope. I've opened the door.
Mhm.
And I've never looked back. And it's, to be honest, being a volunteer, an alumni volunteer with YFU has been one of the proudest achievements of my life. I don't think I've ever not been involved with YFU since I turned 18, basically.
Wow. That is a storied legacy that you got there with us. And I know just from hearing people around the YFU community talk, I know people think very highly of you, myself included.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because we got to meet at a pre-departure orientation last year. And so how did you get involved with helping out with that?
Yeah. So pre-departure orientations, of course, I remember my own in the mountains of Santa Cruz when I was 16. And when I came back, went to college in Wisconsin / Germany, and then came back to California. And I was working and living, and I thought, I don't really have time all the time to be a volunteer, but I can do it more in the summertime. And so I was doing pre-departure orientations for students in the San Francisco area at first, once I was out of college. And because that's one day or one weekend, and there's an intense amount of work that leads up to that. So what's that, like 2 weeks of my life? I can do that. Yeah. And it still felt like I was connected to the students and I was helping them prepare and, sharing my anecdotes and what I had learned. And then I got interested in the curriculum. And then I was like, what are we teaching these kids? What? But that's a bit silly. But in all seriousness, like, what do students need to know? What did I remember from my orientation? Was my pre-departure orientation actually helpful to my exchange experience, or was it more the community of peers that I had formed while I was at these orientations? So then I started getting really interested in what the topics were covered at orientations, and specifically pre-departure. So that was probably the first like big volunteer hat that I wore once I got out of college, and I stuck with it for a long time. And maybe 2012, 2011, something like that, my alumni volunteer YFU family that I had made based in San Francisco, and then them knowing other people around the US, and then the YFU main office knowing that I had this experience with pre-departure orientations, they said, do you want to help us like put on a big orientation for all of the students that are going abroad for a year? And I was like, yes. Again, I leapt towards it.
Yeah.
Without really thinking how much work it would be, or, what the goals of the project would look like. That seems to be a theme with me. But yeah, I knew I would be in good hands. I knew I would be heard. I knew my opinions would be valid. I knew not all of my thoughts and ideas would come to fruition, and that's okay. That's part of the process of creating an event like the National Pre-Departure Orientation that brings all year and semester students into one place and creates an experience for them to hold on to and prep them for what exchange can feel like, possibly. So we talk about things like culture shock and language barriers and family conflict, and all those things are things that I experienced. So it's all incredibly valid. It doesn't matter how long ago you went on exchange or whether it was first semester or year, you're going to run into those situations. Yeah.
For one, from watching the little bit of the National Pre-Departure Orientation that I saw you plan and execute last year, that is a big freaking project. And for the parents of their study abroad students who are about to send them to pre-departure orientation, they are in good hands with Liz at the helm. So
Liz in the helm. That's let's strike that phrase. That's no, my ego is too into that. Let's no.
How have you seen volunteering with YFU kind of change as you've grown in your life?
That's really an interesting question. Having been a YFU volunteer for so long and also worn all the hats, I've interviewed students, American students that want to go abroad. I've been at the pre-departure orientations with them. I've also been a local coordinator and worked at orientations inside the US for the international students, right? And supported them month to month as I'm able. I've recruited host families. I've never written profiles. Oh. That's maybe one hat I haven't worn, but I've sort of seen all angles of how you're able to volunteer with YFU. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, that there's no one way to volunteer with YFU. And that's really great, because it means you can do a couple different things, or you can have it fit the season of your life that you're in at the time. And what you put into it, you get out of it.
Are you looking to make a difference in your community and beyond?
Well, we have the answer. YFU USA offers a variety of volunteer opportunities that allow you to support international exchange students and their host families.
Whether you're interested in mentoring, event planning, or administrative support, there's a role here for you.
Ready to learn more? Visit yfuusa.org to find out how you can get involved and make a positive impact today.
I think that's what I've really seen, especially over the course of the last decade plus with the orientations that have come together. If you, as a volunteer, have a certain perspective, a certain point of view about what could be the most useful for students, what could be the most useful for volunteers, for your fellow volunteers, what landscape exchange exists in, is exchange super popular and everybody's doing it, or is it something that's a little bit more inaccessible? And how can we combat those things? I think as a YFU volunteer, it's a beautiful way to introduce yourself to the different facets of how you can volunteer, and you get out of it what you put in. So if you have an idea and you want to run with that idea, you can take the initiative and try those things out and see where it takes you. And I think that's been the lesson that YFU volunteering has given me as well, as just the camaraderie and the family and the warmth that I get from anybody I meet. Oh, you're with YFU? Me too. It's like instant connection, instant family, especially if you're an alumni volunteer. There's just an ease of connection and understanding where that other person is coming from, because that's where you were as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of all the hats you've worn, what's been your favorite?
Oh, dear. So recently, as a local coordinator, I will say being a local coordinator, maybe when I was fresh out of college or just in my early 30s, it didn't feel like the right fit, because I was not in a season of life that allowed me to check in on a monthly basis. I didn't feel like I had a routine that I could sit in, and I was still wanting to travel and see the world and have all these other experiences. But in the last few years, post-COVID, I've been a local coordinator here in Portland, Oregon, and I remember taking 2 students to Bullwinkles, which here in the Portland area is like, you can go drive bumper cars, you can play mini golf, you can get on a zip line, you can go to the arcade games, you can go bowling. It's one of those family-oriented places. And to see them interact with each other, even though they don't know each other as students, but again, they're 2 exchange students with YFU, and I love being able to provide a space for those students to make community with each other. Yeah. I think I've created my own community with YFU people, and that is a community that I belong to and always will belong to. And I love, as a local coordinator, being able to create a space where 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds they're at the start of that. They're at the start of that idea, that germ seed of an idea, that they're part of something much bigger than themselves. And I love them coming to that realization at some point over the course of their year. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I can't agree more. And I mean, you don't have to have had an exchange experience to be a local coordinator. You don't have to have been a host family to be a local coordinator. But what would you say, no matter what your life experience is, makes a good local coordinator?
I think the qualities of being flexible and open are a huge plus, because a local coordinator is all about listening and picking up on context clues. And if you are simply checking in with a student and reading from a script, so to speak, you're not going to get real answers. They're teenagers.
Yep.
It's not gonna happen. They're gonna be like, "How's school?" "Yeah, it's great." We learned nothing from that exchange. But I think if a local coordinator is flexible and understands that they can, like, what's their version of checking in? I took 2 students to Bullwinkles. We played mini golf. It doesn't mean that I didn't check in with them or didn't have deeper conversations with them. Of course I did, but we played mini golf in between, right? We hit strikes at bowling in between, having those types of conversations. And that's my version of, I don't do it every month. That would be expensive, but
Yes.
that's a different way that I can provide that community feeling, but also that sort of real in-person touch base for the students, which is also very important. If local coordinators feel detached from their students that they're checking in with, it's going to be a really boring experience for you as a volunteer and the students on exchange. So yeah. And then I think also just the quality of, or the idea that you're part of their experience. So how are you in service to their exchange experience as their local coordinator? And that could mean saying some really honest but kind things like, are you reading too many books in your room at night? You know, what movie theater did you go out with friends to in the past 2 weeks? You know, like how are we able to nudge them into being a bit more gregarious, a bit more brave? Yeah.
Gotcha. And for a local coordinator who maybe hasn't been an exchange student, do you have any advice for them, or somebody who may be considering becoming a local coordinator? For somebody who hasn't gone on exchange, do you have any advice for how they can connect better with their exchange students and host families that they're serving?
Yeah, it's a great question. Local coordinators are local. So think about how you can represent where you live, right? Does that mean taking them somewhere that only a local would know about and giving them that bit of local history and being representative of that local culture of that place, right? Portland, Oregon is different to Washington, D.C. is different to Billings, Montana is different to Birmingham, Alabama, right? Those are 4 completely different places. So the local coordinator is a local representative of that place. So it doesn't mean that you can't connect with your exchange student because they came to your locality, they came to your town, and that's a brilliant way to connect with the students as well. And I think we've all had life experiences where we felt like the outsider, or we felt like the odd one out, and you don't have to have gone on exchange to know how to connect with someone who feels that way. Possibly, yeah.
Gotcha. That's brilliant insight, truly. And I really appreciate you sharing that. To bring it up to present day, I hear we're at a full circle moment with you, and you are taking your first foray into hosting yourself.
I am.
So how did that happen?
Well, COVID happened. And after COVID, and I was helping with the national pre-departure orientation, which went virtual. And that felt very small and constricting. And just, nobody wanted to live in that place in their lives. I am a friendly person. I'm an extroverted person. I'm an outgoing person. A bit of an ambivert now that I've aged. But, those are parts of myself that felt small during the COVID times. So when things started to open up, I became more involved as a local coordinator on top of working with the national pre-departure orientation. And I started to get this idea in the back of my head. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment at the time, that I don't even have like an extra bedroom that my friends can stay in if they were visiting me. What's that about? And then I started getting other ideas like, but if I had another bedroom, like, would I just want my friends to stay in it? Or I don't know, I'm in my 40s now. I could probably host a student. Oh my God. And it's just sort of formulated, but that was ultimately always going to be an idea that I had. And it felt like I could never do that I never had the space to do it, that I never had the income to do it, that I never had the flexibility of life, the phase of life. And now I'm in my 40s. I'm capable of that. I'm financially stable. My parents helped me buy a house in Portland so that I had an extra bedroom so that a student could stay here with me. So so this is the year that it's happened, because I moved into my house a year ago. So and drum roll please, but of course it's a German girl. It's a German female student who will be 16 and has her birthday 9 days apart from mine. So it's it's a little creepy, but no, she seemed really lovely, and she's me 30 years ago. Yeah. It's weird. But yeah, that's going to happen this fall.
Yeah. See, I thought, just by being a host family, I figured this is a full circle moment. I did not realize how in depth this circle went. This is a spiral moment at this point. We're really circling in.
Double helix spiral. Yeah. Definitely.
Yes, double helix.
Definitely. Definitely. No, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
This is the next phase. I've been organizing things and reaching out to the students and coordinating and doing all of those things. She's going to teach me so many things that I'm not even aware of. This is another leap. This is another big leap of faith to become a host mom. And when I don't have children of my own, when it's just me. And I'm so looking forward to learning from her and seeing what new revelations will come. Yeah.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best for your hosting adventure.
Thank you.
And I hope that everything goes wonderfully with the German daughter that will be joining your family very soon.
Thank you very much.
So I guess as a final little wrap-up question, why should somebody who is considering being part of YFU in some way, why should they do it?
Oh my God, what a question. I think on a personal note, the world feels both big and small at the same time. There's so much in the world on offer. Life is very short. Being the age that I am, having parents who are aging, seeing students who are at the beginning of something. Yeah. I think it's a very reflective time for me personally. And the world is both big and small, which means there's a lot of opportunity there. And YFU is an organization that allows you to access the world in the way that suits you best, because you can, as a teenager, as a young person, you can go see the world. You can go to a specific spot in the world and live there and really feel like you belong in that place. I think that's incredibly valuable, but not everybody gets to do that specific experience. That doesn't mean that you can't meet other teachers in your life, like being a host parent, being a host sibling, being a volunteer and seeing the students go through and really navigate their experience. Being, friends with a community that really values understanding the world and not judging it. Yeah. And I think that's definitely a big piece of the puzzle to me. I've never felt judged. I've never felt labeled by my YFU family other than you're part of YFU. And that's a beautiful thing. I feel like I belong. So if you're wanting to belong somewhere, I think YFU is a very available place. I think there's some wide open arms here for you.
Yeah, here they are. They're right here for
you.
Right
here.
Join us. Well, that's wonderful. And that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Liz, for chatting with me and sharing all of your incredible stories. We're going to maybe have to do a part 2 after the exchange year is over with your student, or maybe in the middle of it. We'll see. Either way, I just want to talk to you more. So, for people who may be interested in following more of what you're doing and how your hosting experience goes, where can we find you?
Oh dear. I'm on Instagram, Elizabeth Zirk, on Instagram. I'm going to post sporadically, but stories are always active.
And I hear you also have a podcast.
No. I do. Technically, I have 2 podcasts. That's where this beautiful mic comes in handy. People can go to lizzirk.com and find my podcasts both in audio and written form.
Awesome. I will make sure that those are in the episode notes for people to find you. But again, Liz, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. You're such a beautiful interviewer. That felt really easy. And I'm glad to share all of my anecdotes and stories. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I really, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
But enough of the gushing. We're going to get on with our day. So
fair enough.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Life Exchange Stories of Understanding. I have been your host, Kelsey Ross. Until next time, bye.
Listen to Life Exchange Stories of Understanding now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.